Okay, so I'm guessing by this point everyone knows that Charlie Kirk was brutally, horrifically, violently murdered today. I was trying to understand, okay, why is this upsetting me so much? I don't have a relationship with this person, and obviously death is terrible, but this felt so personal and close to me. And I think for bordering on millions of people are feeling the same way. So why? If you don't know this person. And it took me back to 2016, where I was going through a lot personally and politically. I was so lost as to what to believe. I had tons of family who had gone, left or were starting to go radical left. And that was, the cool thing, the social justice thing. That's what you did if you, if you were a nice person, or if you weren't racist, right? If you believed that women had worth, you went radical left. And people I loved and looked up to and wanted the respect of were all going left when Trump started running. And I was in the gaming culture, the gaming community. And we know that that is a godless, horrible, dark, miserable place to be, but that's where I was. I was this close to starting to get sleeve tattoos, lots of piercings, and while I wasn't acting promiscuous, I know that had I stayed on that path, that's where I was going to head. It's just this godless place searching for man's approval. And then I started getting videos suggested to me by friends on Twitter, gaming friends, who were like, look at this idiot, look at this misogynistic white male jerk. And I would watch it and go like, oh yeah, look at him and the token black woman with him, right? Candace Owens. But their arguments and the way they were debating was really interesting. I couldn't believe that their whole shtick was having discussion with people who disagreed with them. I thought that's so interesting. You don't see that on Fox or CNN. I had never seen that before. And you realize that he's so confident. She, Candace Owens too, the two of them were so confident in truth and what they were standing for. And they spoke it so plainly. It didn't feel theatrical. It didn't even feel mocking until people started being really disrespectful to them. They felt warm and down to earth and balanced, reasonable, intelligent people. And Candace Owens was beautiful, and Charlie Kirk in my 19-year-old brain was kind of cute. I was like, this is interesting. I've never seen something like this, where these people seem happy and they're engaging with dissenters constantly. That's their whole thing. And so I stuck around. I kept watching. And people would ask questions and I would think, oh, I've heard that before. Yeah, what's he going to say? And he'd respond in a calm, logical, fact-based manner. And even though I tend to be a very emotional person, I also care a lot about, deeply care about truth. And he was just so confident in talking about what is truth. And it was always based in Christianity and logic. And I stuck around for him, and that led me to Matt Walsh, right? And who still had such a huge influence on me, including, wanting to go into the Catholic Church. And then I am a consistent fan of Candace Owens, and then Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro. And these people took me from the path of radical leftism and feminism and turned me towards good, Christianity, tradition, family, God. And I couldn't believe that you could have all of that, the things that our parents had, that my parents had, but so much of my family had rejected. You could have that and be joyful and intelligent and put together and kind. The way they stood up for life and the dignity of life, that's based in Christianity. The idea that we are all, not just the wealthy, not just the intelligent, not just the born and the unborn, but all of us are created in God's image. And Charlie Kirk really pushed that, the dignity of man, all the time in his arguments. And it's something I believed in. I even when I was more liberal and progressive, I couldn't wrap my mind around the idea of having an abortion because your child has Down syndrome. I thought they have just as much value as I do. And that's where he argued from, was truth and love from Christianity's point of view, which is radical, right? The idea that all people have dignity. That completely transformed my life. Starting with Turning Point USA, I realized that there was another way for my life. And so I went from gaming culture, wanting to become a streaming girl. And by the way, we all know what the streaming streamlines into, right? How that works out for women. I went from that aspiration to my husband, who's an angel, a hard worker, a provider, level-headed, great man, and to Christianity and biblical Christianity and traditional Christianity, to Catholicism, to having my 2 children and being a stay-at-home mom. My aspirations were being a lawyer or a film director.